Rodney Marks. Rodney Marks was a scientist from Australia who worked in Antarctica. He was born in 1968 and was known as a very smart and friendly person. He went to good schools, studied science, and later became an astrophysicist. Rodney did not fit the usual idea of a serious scientist. He liked heavy metal music, had long hair, wore black clothes, and even painted his nails. People around him thought he was fun, kind, and easy to talk to. Rodney first worked in Antarctica in the late 1990s and loved it so much that he wanted to return. Antarctica is extremely isolated. There are no towns, no stores, and most of the year it is far too cold for planes to land. The people who choose to work there are usually very dedicated scientists doing important research. Rodney's work involved using a special telescope to study space. His fiancée, Sonia, also worked on the base so that they could be together. In the year 2000, Rodney returned to the South Pole to continue his research. Only 49 people lived on the base, so everyone knew each other well. Rodney was well-liked and even played guitar in a small on-base band. Life there was tough, with constant darkness and temperatures far below zero, but Rodney seemed happy and excited about his work. On May 11, 2000, everything changed. Rodney was walking back from the observatory when he suddenly started feeling sick. At first, he thought it might be normal stress from the extreme cold and darkness, but his symptoms became worse very quickly. He had trouble breathing, and his vision became blurry. Later that night, he began vomiting blood. Rodney went to the station doctor, Dr. Robert Thompson, but the doctor could not figure out what was wrong. With the internet and satellite phones down, he had no way to ask anyone for help. Rodney's condition continued to worsen. He grew weak and suffered severe stomach pain, aching joints, and burning eyes. The doctor suspected anxiety or alcohol withdrawal and prescribed sedatives, but they offered no relief. Rodney kept returning for treatment, more frightened each time. Early the next day, Rodney collapsed. His breathing slowed, and despite attempts from the medical team and volunteers, he went into cardiac arrest and died on May 12, 2000. Everyone at the base believed he had died of natural causes, because no one could imagine anything else happening in such an isolated place. Because planes could not land during the winter, Rodney's body had to stay there for 5 months. When it was finally taken to New Zealand for an autopsy, doctors discovered something shocking. Rodney had died from methanol poisoning. Methanol is a toxic chemical often used to clean equipment. It is clear, has almost no taste, and can be deadly even in small amounts. This discovery led to many questions. Did Rodney drink it by accident? Did someone give it to him? Or was there another explanation? No one knew. Even today, Rodney Marks's death remains one of the strangest and most mysterious cases to ever happen in Antarctica. Last image of 17-year-old Jonna, who on this day 10 years ago went missing after leaving home to go jogging. She was later found burned alive from an abandoned barn. Jonna had broken up with her 25-year-old boyfriend Ramin Azimi due to the age difference. She moved on, and he fell into depression because he had wanted to marry her. So he abducted her from her usual jogging route he had memorized due to stalking. He drove a bit before he assaulted her and knocked her unconscious. Then he drove to an abandoned barn where he tied her to a table, doused the place in gasoline, and lit the place on fire. Second-degree burn marks imply he watched as the flames grew and Jonna burned alive. He said the burns happened because he tried to set the barn on fire, then changed his mind, but the match slipped from his hand. He claimed he then saw Jonna walk into the flames on her own. No one believed his story, and he was given life in prison. The court concluded that he had acted out of anger because Jonna had ended their relationship. When the verdict was read, Ramin sat quietly as an interpreter explained everything to him in his own language. After the judgment, he told the court that he did not accept the decision and planned to appeal. Annika Ferry was a 21-year-old engineering student who loved the outdoors, travel, and watching the sunrise. Early one Wednesday morning, she and her best friend Beck Bennett went for a bushwalk at North Head in Sydney. They left around 5:30 a.m., hoping to reach an old World War II bunker on the clifftop in time to see the sunrise. It was a place where people often went to take photos because the view was beautiful. When they arrived, the two friends enjoyed the bright sunrise and took photos. Beck took several pictures of Annika smiling and posing in front of the sky. Annika's family later released these photos because they wanted people to see how happy she was in her final moments. Not long after the photos were taken, a terrible accident happened. Annika was hanging from the concrete bunker when part of its roof suddenly gave way. This last photo of her was taken mere seconds before the tragedy. The falling piece struck her, and she fell to the rocks below. Beck tried very hard to save her, giving CPR and calling for help, but the area was very hard for emergency crews to reach. Police, paramedics, and a rescue helicopter all tried to get to the scene quickly, but it was already too late. Annika's father, Dr. Jim Ferry, said his daughter had always been full of energy and joy. She studied renewable energy engineering at the University of New South Wales and had been on the Dean's Honor List. She had gone to Queenwood School for Girls and had even traveled to Antarctica with her father the year before. People who knew the family were heartbroken, saying she had so much promise and had already done so many amazing things at a young age. Police said they are still looking into the details of the accident, but they believe it was a very sad and unexpected event. Officers explained that the area around the bunker is rough and hard to access, and even workers in the area warned visitors that it can be dangerous. The Valley of the Headless Men. Deep in northern Canada, there is a place called Nahanni National Park. It is very far from cities and towns. No one lives there, and the only way to reach it is by boat or small plane. The land is wild and beautiful, with tall mountains, deep rivers, and huge cliffs. But this place is also known for dark and strange stories. One area inside the park is called the Valley of the Headless Men. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, many people were searching for gold. Men left their homes and families to try to get rich. Some of them traveled to the Nahanni area after hearing there might be gold there. One of the first known stories is about two brothers, Frank and Willie McLeod. In 1904, they went into the Nahanni looking for gold. The trip was long and hard. They traveled by train, then by boat, and finally on foot through rough land. The brothers found gold and returned home safely. Because of this success, they went back again a year or two later. This time, they never came back. After waiting for years, their brother Charlie went to look for them. He and a small group followed the Nahanni River deep into the land. Along the way, they found campsites that looked like the ones Frank and Willie had used. After many days of travel, the group found two skeletons near a burned tree. Both bodies were missing their heads. Near them were items that belonged to Frank. Charlie knew he had found his brothers. No one could explain what had happened. The skulls were never found, and there were no clear signs of a fight. This was not the last strange death in the area. Over the next few years, more gold seekers entered the Nahanni. Many of them were later found dead, often without their heads. Some were found near burned cabins. Others were tied to trees. Because of these events, the area became known as the Valley of the Headless Men. In the 1920s, a woman named Annie Lafert joined a hunting group. One day she vanished without a trace. Later, someone claimed to see a woman climbing a mountain on all fours like an animal. Annie was never found. Other men also went missing, and their camps were found burned and empty. The Nahanni area is important to the Dene people who lived there thousands of years ago. They had many stories about spirits, giants, and dangerous beings. They believed some areas were sacred and should not be entered. They also believed in strong rules about death and spirits. These stories added to the mystery of the land. Some people believe the deaths were caused by wild animals, like bears or wolves. Others think rival gold seekers killed each other for gold. Some believe the stories grew bigger over time and were changed by rumor. There is even a theory that some details were wrong, and that the bodies were not truly headless when first found. Today, Nahanni National Park is protected and mostly untouched. While there may be normal reasons for the deaths and disappearances, the number of strange stories is hard to ignore. This is the last photo of University of Kentucky student Ann Gieskie celebrating her 20th birthday while studying abroad in Seoul. The following day, she was killed in the Itaewon Halloween crowd crush, which resulted in 159 deaths. Ann, a native of Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, was a junior at the University of Kentucky, majoring in nursing. She had recently celebrated her 20th birthday abroad and had been actively involved in her high school marching band at Beechwood High School. The tragic stampede occurred during a Halloween celebration in Seoul, where more than 100,000 people had gathered. Witnesses described chaotic scenes as the dense crowd surged through narrow alleys, resulting in hundreds of deaths, including Ann and one other American. The black snow of Siberia. In a coal mining area of Siberia, people have shared videos showing streets covered in black snow. This snow is dark because it is mixed with coal dust. Many people say this shows a serious man-made environmental problem. One video from the town of Kiselyovsk shows black snow covering roads, homes, and even children's playgrounds. The snow looks dark as far as the eye can see. Russian news described these scenes as looking like the end of the world. The black snow comes from open coal mines in the Kuzbass region. Coal dust fills the air and falls onto the snow in winter. People living there say it is hard to find clean white snow anymore. The dust is in the air all year, but snow makes it easier to see. Health problems are common in this region. Many people suffer from cancer, lung disease, and other serious illnesses. Life expectancy here is lower than the rest of Russia. Trains carrying coal often use open cars, allowing dust to spread to towns and rivers. Some activists want other countries like Britain to stop buying coal from this area. They believe this pressure could force change. Peter, Sue Kim, and Christine Lee Hansen's last Christmas photo, 2000. They were sadly killed on board United Airlines Flight 175 9 months later when it was crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Christine, aged 2, was the youngest victim of 9/11. The death of Byford dolphin divers, 1983. In the early morning of November 5, 1983, a diving bell was lifted from the cold, rough waters of the North Sea. Inside the bell were 2 deep-sea divers who had just finished a long and difficult job. 2 tired dive tenders worked outside on the oil rig, helping to connect the bell to a sealed living area called a habitat. This would allow the divers to move out safely. It was dark, raining, loud, and freezing cold. Everyone was exhausted after many long hours of work. In these harsh conditions, a single mistake was made. That mistake caused one of the worst accidents in the history of deep-sea diving. The Byford Dolphin was an oil drilling rig built in Norway in 1974. It worked in the North Sea between Norway and Scotland. The sea there is known for strong winds, cold water, and dangerous weather. The rig floated with parts above the water and parts below it. Most work happened on a platform above the sea, while drilling took place far below the ocean floor. The rig also had special diving systems. These were needed because some repair work had to be done very deep underwater. Deep diving is extremely dangerous. Cold water, poor sight, and sea life all add risk, but the biggest danger is pressure. The deeper a diver goes, the more pressure their body feels. This pressure causes gas from breathing to mix into the blood. If a diver comes back up too fast, this gas can form bubbles in the body. These bubbles can cause extreme pain, paralysis, heart problems, or death. This sickness is often called the bends. To avoid this, divers must come back up very slowly. Because of this, special methods are required. One of these is called saturation diving. In this technique, divers remain under pressure for days or even weeks, living in sealed chambers and traveling to their work site in a pressurized bell. This allows them to return to normal pressure slowly only once at the end of the job. On November 5th, 4 divers were working in this system. 2 of them were resting inside the habitat. The other 2 had just finished a long dive that took much longer than planned. It was now about 3 in the morning, and they were very tired. The 2 divers returned in the diving bell and moved into the habitat. As normal, doors were being closed so the bell could be safely removed. But before one door was fully shut, a dive tender outside believed it was already closed. He removed a clamp too early. This caused instant pressure loss. The air rushed out with massive force. The diving bell was thrown away from the habitat. One dive tender was killed at once, and the other was badly hurt. 3 of the 4 divers inside died instantly because gas burst out of their blood and stopped their bodies from working. The 4th diver was forced through a small opening by the blast. Only one person lived through the accident, a dive tender who later recovered. An investigation showed that long work hours, loud noise, bad weather, and old equipment all played a part. After the accident, safety rules were changed and better equipment became required. Many years later, the families of the victims received a settlement. The Byford Dolphin was taken apart in 2019. Today, deep-sea diving is still used, but with much better safety. Machines and robots now do more of the dangerous work, helping prevent tragedies like this from happening again. Love Parade Stampede, Germany, 2010. On the 24th of July 2010, a very large music event called Love Parade took place in the city of Duisburg, Germany. Love Parade was a free dance music festival that many people loved. Hundreds of thousands of people came to enjoy music, dance, and have fun. Sadly, this day ended in tragedy. Love Parade had started many years earlier, in 1989, in Berlin. At first, only a small group of people attended. Over time, it grew into a huge event, often attracting over 1 million people. Because it was seen as a public parade, it did not have to follow the same strict rules as other paid events. In 2010, Duisburg was chosen to host the event. This time, the festival was held in an old railway area instead of moving through city streets. The space was surrounded by roads and train lines. There was only one main way in and out, a long tunnel with 2 ramps. Everyone had to use this tunnel to enter and leave the site. The number of visitors was meant to be limited to 250,000 people. On the day of the event, problems began early. The gates were supposed to open at 11 in the morning, but they opened late because work was not finished. Large crowds waited outside. When the gates finally opened, people moved in quickly. The main ramp became very crowded. It was narrower than planned. At the same time, many people were leaving the site using the same ramp, even though there was another exit. This caused even more crowding. Police later closed the entrances to stop more people from entering, but the barriers were weak and could not hold the crowd back. People kept pushing into the tunnel from both sides. Soon the crowd became dangerously tight. People were pressed together and could not move. Some could not breathe. Others fainted or fell and could not get up again. A few people managed to escape by climbing poles, stairs, or nearby objects, but most were trapped. By around 5 in the afternoon, the crowd slowly began to clear. When space opened up, injured and unconscious people were seen on the ground. In total, 21 people died, mostly because they could not breathe. Hundreds more were injured. After the event, many people argued about who was responsible. Organizers, city leaders, and police blamed each other. No one was punished in the end, and Love Parade was canceled forever out of respect for the victims. Stephen Pier. Last image of Stephen Pier on June 22, 1887 at Niagara Falls, Ontario. His body was found under his tight ropes near the Niagara River Gorge on June 25, 1887, after attempting an unplanned crossing at night. Larry Howard Groves, 2003, Indiana, USA. Larry Howard Groves was a 40-year-old man who lived in Lakeville, Indiana. He lived alone in a small house with his 2 dogs. Larry owned an antique business and was well known by his family and friends. On January 12, 2003, Larry came home around 9 at night. Later that evening, around 11, he called his friend Sandy Smith, who lived in Mississippi. Larry and Sandy talked on the phone for about 10 minutes. Their talk was normal and calm at first. Then Sandy heard loud banging sounds on Larry's front door. She also heard a man's voice yelling and demanding to be let inside. Larry told Sandy not to worry and said he knew who the man was. He told her he would call her back in about 20 minutes. Larry never called her again. Over the next few weeks, no one saw or heard from Larry. He stopped working at his antique business, and his dogs were also gone. On January 28th, Larry's mother, Wanda Groves, reported him missing. Police went to Larry's house but did not find him or his dogs. Nothing inside the home looked broken or taken. Months passed with no answers. On Memorial Day weekend, Wanda went into her son's house to look for clues. The house was very clean and in good order. Nothing seemed wrong, but Larry was still missing. In April, Larry's sister and police searched the house again, but they found nothing. On June 18, 2003, Larry's neighbor noticed something strange. Many black birds were sitting near Larry's yard. He also saw a large number of flies on the side of Larry's house and on the windows. At first, he thought it was caused by fallen fruit from a tree. When he looked closer, he saw the flies were covering the house. The neighbor called Durrell Bennett, the owner of the house. Durrell came over, and together they went inside. Right away, they smelled something very bad. They searched the house but did not find anything. When they checked the fridge, they found spoiled meat, but the smell was not coming from there. Durrell then remembered a hidden door in the floor that led to a small space under the house. They moved a desk and a rug and opened the door. Inside, they found Larry's body. Police were called at once. Larry's body was badly broken down due to time and heat, and his power had been shut off months earlier. Because of this, police could not tell how he died. However, they found signs that Larry had fought back. Police later learned who the man at the door was that night. He was believed to have sold Larry's antiques without permission. Police questioned him and tested his DNA. In 2006, tests showed the DNA did not match. With no new leads, Larry's case remains unsolved. Christy Crystal Creek. On September 9, 1985, a bear hunter made a sad discovery near Crystal Creek in Montana. While walking through the area, he found human bones. Police were called and an investigation began. After studying the remains, experts learned that the bones belonged to a woman. At first, no one knew who she was. The woman was believed to be Asian, likely of Japanese background. There was also a chance that she had some white family history. Her teeth showed dental work that was common in Asia. The work was very detailed and well done. This helped give clues about where she may have come from. Her hair was thin and wavy, and its color ranged from black to light brown. It did not appear to be treated with chemicals. Her teeth showed signs that she was a smoker. She also had strong cheekbones and was likely right-handed. Even with all of this information, police could not figure out her name. After many failed attempts, they gave her a name so she would not remain unknown. They called her Christy Crystal Creek, named after the place where she was found. Years later, the Missoula County Sheriff's Office cold case team decided to try again. They worked with a private lab that uses advanced DNA testing. The team used DNA from public family history websites. These sites helped them search for family matches and build a family tree. After weeks of hard work, they finally found relatives connected to the woman. In May 2021, the woman was identified as Janet Lee Lucas. Janet was born in October 1960. She grew up in California and later moved to Spokane, Washington, with her parents and her 7 brothers and sisters. Janet was a young mother. She had a 5-year-old son when she disappeared at the age of 23. There is no record showing that she ever lived in or visited Montana, which made the case even more confusing. How she ended up there remains unknown. A detective stated that finding her name was only one step, and that justice still needed to be served. Janet's family shared a heartfelt message. They said they were broken to learn that she had been gone for so long without being identified. They described her as kind, warm, and full of heart. She was deeply missed and never forgotten. Police believe a man named Wayne Nance may have been responsible. He was linked to other crimes in the area, but died in 1986 and was never found guilty. Death of Jeannette DePalma, 1972. Jeannette DePalma was born on August 3, 1956, in Jersey City, New Jersey. Her parents were Salvatore and Florence DePalma. They were Italian and very religious. Jeannette grew up in a large family. She was one of 8 children with 4 sisters and 3 brothers. When Jeannette was young, the family lived in Roselle. In the mid-1960s, they moved to Springfield, New Jersey. At that time, many new families were moving into the area. Some local people did not like this change and felt the town was losing its small-town feel. Neighbors said the DePalma family kept to themselves. They did not talk much to others and were seen as quiet and private. The family was part of a church called the Assemblies of God. Jeannette was very serious about her faith. She helped with church work and wanted to go to Bible college one day. People who knew Jeannette said she was kind, honest, and funny. She also had a strong side. She could stand up for herself and would help others if they needed it. At school, she did not always fit in. Some students were mean to her, and there were rumors about her. Her family said these rumors were not true. Jeannette did have a boyfriend named John. On Monday, August 7, 1972, Jeannette was 16 years old. That afternoon, she told her mother she was going to hitchhike and then take a train to visit her cousin in Berkeley Heights. It was about 8 miles away. Jeannette left her house at 1:20 p.m. This was the last time her mother ever saw her. Jeannette never reached her cousin's house. When she did not come home by 10 p.m., her parents went to the police to report her missing. The police told them they had to wait 24 hours and suggested she may have run away. Her family began looking for her on their own. 6 weeks later, on September 19, 1972, a woman living nearby made a terrible discovery. Her dog came home from the woods carrying a human arm. The police were called right away. Officers believed it could belong to Jeannette. A search began in the wooded area near a quarry called Houdet Quarry. A few hours later, Jeannette's body was found on top of a large rock formation known as the Devil's Teeth. Her body was badly decomposed. She was found face down, and her flip-flops were next to her. It would have been very hard to climb to that spot wearing flip-flops. Because of the condition of her body, doctors could not find an exact cause of death. There were no broken bones or gunshot wounds. The coroner believed she may have been strangled, but the death was listed as suspicious, not murder. Police tested her clothing and hair. No signs of drugs, poison, or assault were found. There was very little physical evidence. A few people were looked at as suspects, but no one was charged. Over time, the case went cold. Some people believed her death was linked to devil worship or rituals. This idea became popular because of fear at the time, but later photos showed no signs of this. Others believed drugs or a cover-up may have been involved. Some records from the case were missing for years, which made people suspicious. Even today, Jeannette DePalma's death remains unsolved. Her family and others still want answers. What truly happened to her is still unknown. In January 1935, a strange and frightening event took place at the President Hotel in Kansas City, Missouri. A young man checked in on January 2nd using the name Roland T. Owen. He looked to be in his 20s or early 30s. He had a scar on his head and an injured ear, which made some people think he might have been a boxer. He carried almost nothing with him, only a comb, toothbrush, toothpaste, and a hairbrush. The bellboy thought this was odd, since most guests brought bags or extra clothes. Roland asked for a quiet room on the 10th floor and was given room 1046. From the beginning, hotel staff noticed that he acted nervous and stayed in near total darkness. The maid, Mary Soptic, said he kept the shades closed and only used a small lamp. When she cleaned the room, he asked her not to lock the door because he was expecting someone. The next morning, Mary found the door locked from the outside, which told her someone had secured it while leaving. Roland was sitting in the dark once again. While she cleaned the room, the phone rang, and Roland answered it, speaking to someone named Don and refusing to eat. His behavior made Mary wonder who Don was and why Roland seemed so frightened. Later that day, when Mary returned with towels, she heard more than one voice. When she knocked, a deep voice, not Roland's, told her they didn't need any towels. This was the first clear sign that someone else had been in the room with him. Strange things were happening outside the room as well. A taxi driver that same night picked up an injured man near the hotel. The man wore only an undershirt and underwear even though it was freezing outside. He kept saying he was going to kill that guy tomorrow, but the taxi driver never saw him again. A woman staying in a nearby room also heard a man and woman arguing late at night, though she wasn't sure from which room the sounds came. On the morning of January 4th, the hotel staff noticed that the phone in room 1046 was off the hook. A bellboy tried to check on the room but could not get in. Later, another bellboy used the master key and found the room dark. Roland was lying on the bed without his clothes on, and there was a dark stain on the sheets, but the bellboy thought he was drunk. He hung up the phone and left. When staff returned a short time later, they discovered the truth. Roland was on the floor, covered in blood. Blood was on the walls, the floor, and even the ceiling. He had been tied with cords, beaten, stabbed in the chest, and possibly strangled. When police asked who had hurt him, he said, "Nobody. I fell in the bathtub, even though this was clearly impossible." He was taken to the hospital and died shortly after. A year later, police learned the name Roland T. Owen was fake. A woman from Alabama recognized him in a newspaper and said the dead man was her son, Artemis Ogletree, only 17 years old. He had left home in 1934 to travel. Even stranger, Artemis's mother had received letters from him after he was already dead. The letters were typed, even though Artemis did not know how to type. She also got a phone call from a man who said Artemis was fine and that he had saved his life. Police found fingerprints from a woman in the room and letters linked to a criminal named Joseph Martin, but they could never prove anything. To this day, no one knows who Don was, who was in the room with Artemis, or why he was killed. Lake Peigneur Sinkhole, 1980. On November 20th, 1980, Lake Peigneur in Louisiana started out as a calm and peaceful place. The lake was usually quiet, and many people came there to fish or enjoy nature. An oil company had hired a drilling team to look for oil under the lake. Beneath the water was a huge dome of salt. The workers on the drilling platform were skilled and knew their job well. Early in the morning, their drill got stuck deep underground. At first, the workers did not worry because this happened sometimes. They tried to free the drill, but suddenly the drill twisted hard, and loud popping sounds came from below. The workers knew something was very wrong. They quickly left the platform and moved their boat to safety. Moments later, the entire drilling platform tipped over and sank into the lake, even though the lake was only about 10 feet deep. Then something even worse began. A huge whirlpool formed where the platform had sunk. It grew bigger and stronger. It pulled in boats, barges, trees, parts of the shore, and even cars and buildings. Water from a nearby canal, which usually flowed toward the Gulf of Mexico, began to flow backward into the lake because the whirlpool was so powerful. While this was happening above, something dangerous was also happening below the ground. Under the lake was a large salt mine with many tunnels. That morning, 55 miners were working there. One miner noticed muddy water rushing into the tunnel. He knew this was a serious danger, so he warned everyone. The miners stayed calm and slowly made their way to the elevator. Even though it was slow and could hold only a few people at a time, all 55 miners escaped safely. The drill had broken through the roof of the mine. Water from the lake rushed in, dissolved the salt walls, and made the mine collapse. All the water from the lake drained into the mine in only a few hours. A tall geyser shot into the air because air inside the mine had no place to escape. After about 40 hours, the lake filled again, but it was now much deeper and full of salty water. Many barges popped back up, but most equipment and buildings were lost forever. Thankfully, no one died, but the damage was huge. In the end, companies paid millions of dollars for the harm caused. Tsutomu Yamaguchi. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a Japanese engineer who became known as the man who survived 2 atomic bombs. On August 6, 1945, Yamaguchi was finishing a 3-month work trip in Hiroshima. He worked for Mitsubishi, helping design oil tankers. He was getting ready to go home to Nagasaki to see his wife and newborn son. But just before he left, he remembered he had forgotten his personal stamp, which people needed for identification in Japan at that time. He went back to get it. This delay changed his life. As he walked, he heard a strange sound above him. When he looked up, he saw an American B-29 bomber and a small object falling from it with parachutes. A few seconds later, a huge white flash filled the sky. Yamaguchi jumped into a ditch. The blast burned his face and arms, burst his eardrums, and knocked him out. When he woke up, the city was dark, even though it was morning. Buildings were gone. Many people were dead. Yamaguchi was less than 2 miles from the center of the explosion, but he was still alive. He managed to find 2 co-workers who had also survived. They spent the night in a shelter, and then took a train to Nagasaki. The sight of bodies on the streets stayed with him for the rest of his life. Even though he was burned and weak, Yamaguchi went to work the next day. When he told his boss that a single bomb had destroyed Hiroshima, his boss did not believe him and thought he was confused. But at 11:02 a.m. on August 9th, another bright flash filled the office. The second atomic bomb had been dropped, this time on Nagasaki. Yamaguchi survived again, and he rushed home through broken streets, afraid of what he might find. His wife and baby were alive with only small injuries. Yamaguchi soon became very sick with fever and burns, and the hospital had been destroyed, so he had no medical help. After a week, he slowly began to recover. On August 15th, Japan surrendered, and the war ended. The effects of the bombs did not end there. Many survivors became sick years later due to radiation. Yamaguchi's own son died of cancer at 59. His wife also died from health problems linked to radiation. Yamaguchi himself suffered from hearing loss, skin problems, cataracts, and later leukemia. Still, he lived to age 93. For many years, he was only recognized as a survivor of the Nagasaki bomb. In 2009, he was finally officially recognized as a survivor of both bombings. He spent his later life speaking about peace and warning people about the dangers of nuclear weapons. He said, "They could have made their point with one bomb. They knew the bombs would kill women and children. How could they do that?" The Lake Nyos Limnic Eruption, 1986. On the night of August 15, 1984, a quiet road ran along Lake Muno in Cameroon, Africa. A truck carrying 12 people was moving slowly through the dark when a thick fog rolled off the lake. The driver didn't think much of it. It was just fog by the water. But soon the truck's engine stopped completely. The driver tried to start it again, but it wouldn't work. 2 passengers were sitting on the roof, watching as the others got out to see what had happened. One by one, they collapsed without a sound. All 10 inside the truck died almost instantly. The passengers on the roof looked around and saw animals fall too. That night, 37 people and hundreds of animals died, but no one could explain why. Cameroon's authorities kept the incident quiet, and the world didn't hear about it. On August 21, 1986, Lake Nyos, about 100 kilometers away, erupted in the same strange way. That night, villagers were asleep when a loud noise came from the lake. The water started to bubble, and then a thick fog rolled out, covering the area. Many people woke to terrifying sounds, the cries of neighbors as they collapsed. By the next day, up to 1,800 people and over 3,000 animals had died. Survivors and officials were confused. Some thought it was punishment from spirits or government experiments. Scientists studied both lakes and discovered a shocking truth. Both lakes sit on volcanic fields, and over many years, carbon dioxide gas had been building up at the bottom of the deep lakes. Normally, it stays trapped under the water, but on those nights, something triggered the gas to suddenly burst out. The carbon dioxide rose quickly, forming a low-lying fog. Because carbon dioxide is heavier than air, it stayed close to the ground and pushed out all oxygen. Humans and animals in the fog suffocated. The truck engine had stopped because there was no oxygen to run it. The few survivors had been at higher elevations, safe from the low gas. The red color of Lake Nyos the next morning was also caused by the massive amount of carbon dioxide released. This kind of disaster became known as a limnic eruption, a natural event where gas trapped in deep lakes suddenly escapes, often with deadly results. Scientists have since installed pipes in Lake Muno and Lake Nyos to safely release the gas, preventing future eruptions. Luckily, such events are rare, and only 3 lakes in the world are known to be at risk. Lake Kivu, near Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, is much larger than Nyos or Muno, with millions of people living nearby. It also contains methane, which is flammable, meaning an eruption could cause both toxic gas and fire. Scientists believe eruptions at Lake Kivu happen roughly every 1,000 years, and the last large one was 5,000 years ago. One small trigger, like an earthquake or heavy rain, could set off another disaster. The Mad Gasser of Mattoon, 1944. Many people grow up afraid of strangers breaking into their homes. We lock our doors and close our windows to feel safe. But what if someone did not need to enter your house to hurt you? In 1944, people in the small town of Mattoon, Illinois became very scared. Many residents called the police and said someone was using gas to make them sick in their own homes. This person became known as the Mad Gasser of Mattoon. The attacks usually happened at night. People said they smelled a sweet or strange odor. Soon after, they felt weak, sick, or unable to move. Some people even said they were partly paralyzed for a short time. Over 20 homes were reported as targets. The first known case happened on September 1, 1944. A woman named Dorothy Kearney had gone to bed after putting her children to sleep. She noticed a strange, sweet smell in the room. At first, she thought it came from flowers outside her window, but soon her legs went numb and she could not move. She called her sister, who also smelled the odor. The police came but found nothing. Later that same night, Dorothy's husband saw a tall man dressed in dark clothes looking into their window. He chased the man, but the person escaped. Once again, police could not find any proof. A few days later, another woman named Beulah Cords found a white cloth on her porch. When she picked it up and smelled it, she became very sick. Her legs felt weak, her lips swelled, and her throat burned. Police tested the cloth, but no clear chemicals were found. After that, reports came in very fast. One night alone had 7 reports. A young girl became sick after her mother saw a dark figure outside. Other people smelled sweet fumes and felt weak soon after. Some people said they saw someone spraying gas through open windows. Others saw a tall, thin person running away. News of the attack spread quickly. The town panicked. People followed police cars, hoping to see the gasser. Some citizens walked the streets with guns to protect themselves. Police worried someone innocent might get hurt. The police chief said the town was suffering from mass fear. He believed people were scaring each other and imagining things. He later said the smells came from a nearby factory. Many people did not believe him, and even some police officers disagreed. One man became a main suspect. His name was Farley Llewellyn. He was very smart and liked chemistry. He lived near where the attacks happened and was known for strange behavior. His trailer had a small explosion not long before the attacks began. Police watched him closely but never found enough proof to arrest him. In the end, no one was ever charged. There was very little hard evidence. It is also important to remember that this happened during World War II, when people were very afraid of gas attacks. Some believe the first attacks were real, and later ones were caused by fear spreading through the town. Others believe the Mad Gasser was real, but was never caught. To this day, the Mad Gasser of Mattoon remains a mystery. Bobby Dunbar's disappearance, 1912. In 1912, a 4-year-old boy named Bobby Dunbar went missing during a family fishing trip in Louisiana. He had been playing near the lake with his little brother and a family friend. The area was full of dangers like deep mud, sharp drops, and alligators. One moment Bobby was there, and the next he was gone. His family searched everywhere and called his name again and again, but there was no sign of him. People from nearby towns joined the search, dragging the lake, checking the woods, and even cutting open alligators. They found nothing. His parents feared the worst, or wondered if he had been taken by someone. Then 8 months after he vanished, a message came from Mississippi. Townspeople there believed a man named William Walters, a traveling handyman, was carrying a boy who looked like Bobby. At first, Walters gave different answers about whose child the boy was. Police took the boy and sent photos to Bobby's father. The boy looked very much like Bobby, though he did not seem to know the Dunbars. He pushed away from Bobby's father and did not answer to the name Bobby. Still, he had some of the same scars and marks, except one, the burn mark on Bobby's toe. Some people said maybe the mark had faded after months of walking barefoot. Bobby's mother, Leslie, looked at the boy closely. At first she was unsure, but after spending more time with him, she became certain he was her son. Townspeople cheered, newspapers wrote happy stories, and many believed the boy had been rescued at last. Meanwhile, Walters was arrested for kidnapping. Walters said the boy was not Bobby at all. He said the child was named Bruce, the son of a woman named Julia Anderson. Julia came forward and said this was true. She said she had let Walters take her son for a short trip months earlier, and he had never returned. But people at the time judged Julia very harshly because she was poor and had children outside of marriage. Newspapers mocked her and did not believe her. She had no money for a lawyer, and the town had already accepted the boy as Bobby. She left in defeat. Walters went to trial for kidnapping. Many people said they had seen him in the area when Bobby disappeared, while others said they had seen him with the same boy, Bruce, even before Bobby went missing. Walters was found guilty, though he was later released without a new trial. The boy grew up as Bobby Dunbar, but deep down he never felt certain of who he really was. As an adult, he sometimes said he remembered being kidnapped, but he also told some family members he did not truly know if he was Bobby or Bruce. The mystery lasted almost 100 years. Then long after Bobby had died, a DNA test was done by his descendants. It proved the boy raised as Bobby Dunbar was not related to the Dunbar family at all. He was Bruce Anderson, Julia's lost son. The Dunbars had taken him from her by force, and the truth only came out long after it was all over. The Pollock Twins Reincarnation Case, 1958. The Pollock Twins Reincarnation Case is one of the most famous stories about reincarnation. It happened in England and has confused and amazed people for many years. In the 1940s, a couple named John and Florence Pollock lived in Hexham, England. The older daughter was named Joanna, born in 1946. The younger daughter was named Jacqueline, born in 1951. The girls were very close and spent almost all their time together. Joanna loved to care for Jacqueline and often acted like a second mother to her. The family was very busy running a small food delivery business, so the girls spent a lot of time with their grandmother. The girls loved to play, dress up, and put on small shows. Joanna especially loved acting and being creative. Their life was normal and happy. One strange thing Joanna often said was that she would never grow up. At the time, no one thought much about it. On May 7, 1957, something terrible happened. Joanna, age 11, and Jacqueline, age 6, were walking to church with a young neighbor boy. A car came speeding toward them and hit all three children. All of them later died. The driver was a woman who was very upset and not in a good state of mind. Florence was completely broken by the loss of her daughters. John was also very sad, but he believed in life after death. He had read about reincarnation as a child and felt strongly that the soul could be reborn. He began to have dreams about his daughters and felt their presence in the house. Florence did not believe in reincarnation at all. This caused many problems between her and John. At one point, they almost separated. Later, Florence became pregnant again. On October 4, 1958, Florence gave birth to twin girls. The twins were named Jennifer and Jillian. John believed right away that the twins were the rebirth of Joanna and Jacqueline. Florence did not agree at first. Jennifer had the same birthmarks as Jacqueline, including a mark near her waist and a mark near her eye. Jacqueline had gotten a scar near her eye when she was alive, but Jennifer was also born with the same mark. When the twins were old enough to talk, they began to ask for toys they had never seen. The twins could name the toys and knew which ones belonged to which sister. The twins also had the same favorite foods, the same habits, and very similar personalities to the older girls. The girls were also very afraid of cars. They would hold hands and stop before crossing the road, even though no one taught them to do this. A doctor named Ian Stevenson studied the case. He spoke with the family, examined the birthmarks, and followed the girls for many years. He later wrote about the case in a book about children who remember past lives. As the twins grew older, the memories slowly faded, which often happens in reincarnation cases. As adults, they no longer remembered their past lives. Some people believe this case proves reincarnation. Others think the parents may have shaped the twins without meaning to. No one knows the truth for sure. Even today, the Pollock Twins case remains one of the most interesting reincarnation stories ever told. The Shipwreck of the Batavia. This is a dark story about how cruel people can become when there are no rules and no help. It tells the true story of the ship Batavia and the terrible events that followed its wreck. The Batavia was a large trading ship built in Amsterdam in 1628 by the Dutch East India Company. It was named after Batavia, an important city in the Dutch colonies. The ship was meant to sail across the world to reach that city, but it never arrived. On board were about 315 men, women, and children. Many hoped to start new lives in the colonies. The ship also carried gold and silver to trade for spices like pepper and nutmeg, which were very valuable at the time. The ship left Amsterdam on October 29, 1628. It was led by a commander named Francisco Pelsaert and captained by Arjen Jacobs. The two men did not like each other. They had argued in the past, and this caused tension on the ship. Another man, Geronimus Cornelis, joined the captain. He was angry at the world and planned to take power. As the ship sailed far from land, Cornelis and his friends planned a mutiny. They wanted to take the ship, steal the treasure, and start new lives. Their plan failed, but no one yet knew how dangerous Cornelis truly was. Weeks later, a violent storm hit. On June 4, 1629, the Batavia struck a hidden reef near the coast of what is now Western Australia. People woke in the dark to the sound of wood breaking and water rushing in. A soldier named Weeby Hayes helped many people escape. Thanks to his actions, most survived. Only about 40 people drowned. The survivors reached small nearby islands, with Beacon Island being the main one. They had some food, but almost no fresh water. Commander Pelsaert decided to leave in a small boat to find help. He took Captain Jacobs and other officers and began a long journey to Batavia, nearly 2,000 miles away. It took them 33 days to reach help. While the commander was gone, Cornelis took control of the survivors. He had missed the rescue boat and was now the highest-ranking person left. He took the food and weapons and began ruling through fear. Cornelis split the survivors into groups and sent some away to other islands. He ordered the killing of people he saw as weak or unnecessary. Men, women, and children were murdered without mercy. Some were forced to kill others. Over 3 months, more than 110 people were killed. Only a few women were kept alive. Meanwhile, the soldiers sent away found fresh water and food. They built simple weapons and defenses. When Cornelis tried to attack them, the soldiers fought back and captured him. At that moment, a rescue ship arrived. Hayes and his men reached it first and told the commander what had happened. Cornelis was put on trial and executed for his crimes. Other guilty men were also killed. Some were left on the Australian mainland, never to be seen again. H.M.S Boyd. H.M.S Boyd was a British ship used to carry cargo and by 1800 to transport convicts. Its captain was John Thompson, an experienced sailor. On March 10, 1809, 139 male convicts were put on board for a dangerous journey to Australia. The ship arrived at Port Jackson in October, where the prisoners were unloaded. After that, Boyd set sail for New Zealand to collect good timber for cargo. The ship carried 70 people, including crew, passengers, and freed convicts hoping to start new lives. Among them was a boy named Teara, the son of a Maori chief from Whangaroa Bay. Teara had spent a year working on whaling ships and was now a ship's boy. During the voyage across the Tasman Sea, Teara got into trouble with Captain Thompson. Some stories say a cook blamed him for throwing cutlery overboard. the captain punished him cruelly. Teara was tied to the ship's anchor for days without food or water, and then he was whipped. Humiliated and angry, Teara began to plan revenge. He pretended to have learned his lesson and worked hard to regain the captain's trust. Eventually, he convinced Thompson to sail to Whangaroa Bay, claiming it had perfect forests for timber. When the ship reached New Zealand, Teara jumped overboard and swam to shore. He told his tribe about the captain's cruelty. In Maori culture, harming the chief's son was like attacking the chief himself. The tribe decided to take revenge. Teara's tribe invited Captain Thompson and some officers to explore a local river. Once they were away from the ship, dozens of Maori warriors attacked and killed them. Their bodies were brought back to the village and partially eaten. But the tribe wanted to punish the whole crew. They dressed in the Europeans' clothes, returned to Boyd, and attacked. Most of the crew were killed, and only 5 survived. The survivors hid until another Maori chief, Tipahi, arrived. He rescued them and tried to take them to safety. However, the tribe of Tapuhi, who led the massacre, captured the survivors again. Some of the prisoners were killed later, including the second mate, who was eaten after he could not work for the tribe. Boyd remained abandoned in Whangaroa Bay. The Maori tried to use the ship's gunpowder and weapons, but an accident caused a huge explosion that killed 10 people. The survivors finally escaped, and news of the massacre spread quickly to Australia and Britain. People were terrified, and ships avoided New Zealand for years. A rescue mission led by Captain Alexander Barry eventually freed the survivors and punished the chiefs involved. Despite this, the cycle of violence continued. Some whalers attacked Maori villages, killing many, including those who had tried to help.